Good afternoon, everybody. We have the unenviable spot of being between this audience and lunch, so we'll try and keep it quick. Um, Great to be here. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Shiva. I'm part of Optum Global. Um, as just before we get into our content, I'll take maybe 1 minute to kind of set the context, the business context that we are all operating in. United Health Group is America's largest healthcare insurance company and healthcare provider company. So we service within United Health Group. There are two arms. One is United Healthcare, which is the insurance arm, and Optum, which is the health services arm for United Health Group. We are talking about 1/3 of America's population getting service through our companies. And when we are talking about healthcare, there's multiple aspects that we are touching in this process. There is the health insurance portions, which is essentially ensuring that people are prior authorized before they take services, and then ensuring working through with them through their care continuum, and then finally the whole process around claims. All of this is part of the health care process end to end. The other half of this, which is where Optum comes in, is how do we ensure that we are providing the best care for people on a daily basis that allows them to have and live healthier lives. In the whole process, kind of reduces the cost on the healthcare ecosystem. That's where wellness, prevention, and wellness comes into play. What we are going to talk about today is specifically around the healthcare prevention and wellness space. One of the things that I want to kind of set up before Piyush kind of talks about specifically what we've done here. Um, just like when you use an airline or when you use any of these other services that we do in our life, we have a loyalty program, we have rewards programs. A lot of these rewards programs are basically catered to ensure that we have people coming back and using our services on a regular basis. In our world, it's a different purpose. The purpose of creating a loyalty and rewards program within healthcare is to ensure that people are taking care about how they're living their lives, so that it makes just everyday living easier and makes healthcare costs and expenses less for them. So in that whole space, one of the things that we have done as a product that went live earlier this year is in partnership with Capillary, we rolled out our latest loyalty and wellness program, which is called Rally Engage in the US. Again, in context, it's not a new product in the market in terms of how it's done. But what we've had in Optum and United Health Group over the last several years have been very legacy products. What we are doing with Capillary is actually taking and completely changing the game in how loyalty and wellness is being experienced by the member. And there is a lot of AI that came into play when we went live 1/1 of this year. A big portion of our work also is what we call peak enrollment period that starts between, I'll say, October and January. So the dates are pretty fixed. Maybe we can actually go to the next slide. The control is here. Sorry. Yeah. So when I'll probably go to the next one here. So essentially, when we are talking about healthcare enrollment, that happens between October and December of the year, because January 1 of every year, every company, we actually cater to all large corporations. Within Optum, we service literally every large corporation that is out there, have employee wellness programs, so if you all have health insurance in your company, you would be enrolled into one of those kind of programs similar to what we do here. So we are talking about millions of members. We were trying to onboard when we are talking even about a first go live, we were onboarding over 2 million members in a matter of a few months. And that was a very, very big ask for us. This is where some of the work that we've done with Capillary in how we've been able to onboard in our MVP comes into play. So I'll probably hand it over to you. Kind of talk. This is okay. Just a quick preview of our application of our product, which is actually on Capillary's platform, where a member can do everything at the tip of their fingers. And I'll let Piyush kind of take it through there.
Yep. So I'll start here and give you guys an idea of the complexity that we were landing in here. So Optum does provide health insurance to a lot of corporations in the US. When it comes to the wellness programs as part of that, some of the basic tenets are common, but there is a lot of variations that each employer brings in terms of what they would want to offer to their employees. So employers essentially sit and decide what would they want to offer to their employees. To give you some idea of that just through these screens, what you are seeing here is a health survey that the employees will fill, right? The members will fill the health survey. Now what will be there in the health survey form? Um which fields would you want to capture? What would you make mandatory? Just as a very simple thing, right? Would be defined by uh, each of the organizations or employers by themselves, right? When you do that, will you be able to do that? Before you do that, do you have a prerequisite to do that? When you are doing some of that, how is that going to, let's say, reward you? Some of them could reward you at halfway, some of them might want you to complete it completely. Some of them might say that if you have filled your health survey and if you have got these kind of score, then I go ahead and reward you. How do I reward you? All of that is different by different employers, right? So think of it very similar to how we see different kind of loyalty programs here, that you go to a Flipkart and the way you earn super coins there versus what you could be getting on Swiggy, or what you could be getting at an Indigo, or what you could be getting at an apparel store, will all be very different. Those are all the variations that an Optum would provide as a flexibility across all the customers that it works with, right? And I'm not getting into specific details, but I'll give you a sense of how vast those variations run overall, in terms of so it goes into upwards of 10,000s of the order of tens of thousands of variations in terms of what it will land at overall from a system perspective. If we could-
Yeah, I was just going to say the variations are not something that only Optum decides. So we are actually giving a lot of that flexibility to the clients that we service, which essentially means we want to make it very, very member friendly. And that's where Capillary's platform comes in to help and allow that.
Uh, so I talked about that there are like hundreds of employers, which essentially would lead into variations which are of the order of tens of thousands. And then what you get, so what Optum does is that with each of the employers that it works with, the requirements are captured in the form of business requirement documents, right? So that's where you basically capture all of the requirements. There are terminologies that are common, which are very common in the healthcare industry, in the wellness and so on. But understand this, that all of these requirements have been captured in these hundreds of documents, multi-page documents that are running in there, and that is the one that you have to now bring to life by putting them into some systems that will eventually power the actual app. And when you do some activity, what will you get rewarded with in the background and so on, right? The systems where this information now needs to be decoded to will involve CMS, because what you are seeing on your mobile app will vary based on those. It will lead to, it will basically go into your loyalty system in terms of how you will configure how many steps do you need to walk every day, how many of those days will you need to do continuously before you get rewarded, whether your rewarding is going to be certain coupons that you will get, some points you will get, or whether you will be able to do a donation based on that, and so on, right? So your CMS, loyalty, rewards, there are multiple systems where you have to go ahead and put in this information, right?
And then there is also integrations that you have to do with devices, wearable devices that people may have. That data has to flow in. All of those things have to be captured.
Yeah. And then when you have put in all of these things in that, the testing around that is again the coverage capacity that you will need. Your test case variations are very high in some of these scenarios, right? And add it to the fact that what Shiva mentioned in terms of the timelines, right? So October, November is generally the time at which all of these enrollments are happening. So your requirements are coming in October, November. 1st January is when the insurance renewals happen. So all of this has to go live on 1st January. So you will keep getting your requirements between October, November type time. 1st January you have to go live. So that's the about 30-40 days time that you have to do it across all of these, set this up, test it all, get it ready to roll out, right?
And there is also the variable that the employer could come and say, hey, we need this now at the last minute. So we have to be flexible to be able to accommodate those kind of asks, because we are talking about big insurance, contracts that we have with all these clients.
So our need for so in our relationship with Optum at Capillary, it did not start with a pitch for AI, right? We started working with them to provide the loyalty solution to them. The AI came in when we realized that what we need to do and what we need to deliver is going to be humanly super difficult to get to, right? So this is when the teams started using a lot of AI. What they did is all of these business requirements documents that would come in across all of these customers, we use Gen AI heavily to parse all of that and convert that into a structured, system understandable format. Obviously, there was training required around that. It needed a lot of understanding of terminologies that were common in the documents and their translation into what the systems would understand or interpret them as. So there were mapping layers created between the business terms and how the technical parameters or each of the downstream systems would understand them, right? Uh, then from this translation that was done, the actual population of that information into the systems was again automated using AI translation logic to say that this is the one that pushes it into CMS, this is the one that pushes it into loyalty, this is the one that it pushes it into rewards. So you do not have to go ahead and do all of these things manually. Now, while this was being done, how do you verify so many variations, right? So again, the business requirement documents were used as source to generate the test cases using AI, and that's the one that generated the test cases around all of them. So that became a parallel path to say that there is a path that you are taking to decode those requirements into your system understanding, punching them into the systems, and then how do you use AI to generate those test cases as a parallel path so that you can go ahead and validate what has been put in, and that it meets it. Yeah. What we could get to is a less than 5% error rate on the setup accuracy. So in terms of being able to understand the document, decode all of the variations, put it into the systems across tens of thousands of variations. So you realize when we looked at these errors, we figured that these are the patterns that we'll need to go ahead and verify manually. So that brought down the overall need on that massively. Um, our effort overall on the amount of effort that we would have put in doing this were massively reduced. What we could also get is, like Shiva said, there were employers who came back in the mid of December saying that I want this changed, I want something else changed, and we were able to get 100% rollout done on time, because once we had done this and tested this completely, if somebody came on 20th December saying I want a change, all I needed to do was not go ahead and incrementally change a few things. I said that discard what we have done and just regenerate it and do this for this particular employer again. So we didn't need, and we had the test cases which could go ahead and verify them. So we could accommodate very last stage changes, which is a reality in their world. There are very large scale companies that they work with, and they do come back with requests that from business perspective they're not able to ignore, right? What we also did is that this has established a very scalable, repeatable process. So December 1 is when the bulk of it happened. But since then, for the last 3-4 months, there have been newer customers that have been going live on this every month. And the same repeatable process that is getting used. So the business requirement documents come in, you run it through the same set of processes, and the customers keep going live every month now with the same amount of reduced effort in involvement in this. Um, the few things that I will call out here is, see, working with enterprises and working in a startup mode, there is definitely a lot of differences. So when you are working with the startups, the the risk averseness is high. There is a reason to it. There is a very genuine reason to why they operate that way. So so being very cognizant of that in the journey is very important. uh, all along what we have done is, whether we are running certain AI models, when we are doing some of these trainings or interpretations and so on, we have ensured that it's running within the same ecosystem and environment where we are running things for Optum, not sharing any. What we are using or passing to LLMs is our public documentation, our API documentation, our public documentation, which is all public information. So I'll give it certain terms and say that if somebody asks for this, what does it translate to in terms of my APIs, my documentation? And that is what it basically helps with decoding and translating. So there is no private information getting shared in there, right? The other thing that we did early in the cycle is that while we were still in trial phase, our accuracies were still not very high, but we ran demos with the business teams at Optum, showing them what we were trying to do, how we were looking to do some of these things. So they had the comfort in terms of understanding what's getting shared, what is getting done. This has nothing to do with the customer data anywhere. All it is doing is that there are certain requirements which it is decoding, and then it is trying to translate that into capillary system understandable things. And these are again not things which are private information. This is looking at your public documentation, trying to map it onto that.
Yeah, the reason that is important is because we are a very highly regulated environment. All the data is supposed to be PHI, PII, not to be shared in public domain and all of that. So very, very highly regulated. It's not, we cannot work at the speed we would otherwise operate if we were not in that regulated environment. And yet we were able to make a lot of this happen because of some of these approaches.
So enterprises would be looking for very outsized gains out of using these. I mean, not small incremental gains, outsized gains. Uh, the general concerns that are there around either security, privacy, and so on are all for real. But there is ways to work with it rather than trying to work around it. Incorporate that, imbibe that, and the gains coming out of this, if they are outsized, if they are real, there is a lot of interest in enterprises in adopting and using them.
I think in conclusion, I'll just say this, right? I mean, when you're talking about a company like ours, which is a conglomerate that has 400,000 people operating at such a large scale, there is always going to be that ability, the agility that a startup can have is not that same easy approach for a large organization. It's like trying to steer a ship. And what we've been able to do with Capillary is in that ecosystem, still operate at a startup mode, being able to deliver something like this in about 9 months for an MVP is almost unbelievably good for us as an organization. So we've had some great exposure with how we can operate. This actually set the base for us as we go forward. This year, we're coming up with another bunch of big clients that we'll be onboarding, but this has also shown us like what we've done here is like seriously the tip of the iceberg of what is possible with AI coming in and enabling these kind of exchanges between startups and big enterprises. Just right on time.
If there are any questions, we can take it. Otherwise, we're good here.
Thank you so much.